The drivers then are formed up on the grid ahead of World Series 1 as we get the Manufacturer Series underway for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships here at Suzuka. Ryota Kokubun lines up on home soil on pole position in the Mazda. Alongside him in the Honda NSX is a Valerio Gallo, the Italian. Row 2 is headed by the Chilean Angel Inestrosa for Porsche, and he has got Manuel Troncoso for company in the Lamborghini Huracan. Then on row 3, it's Vincenzo Neto, the Brazilian driver, the first of 2 Brazilians. He's competing for Audi this year with Takuma Miyazono, with Subaru, our 2020 Manufacturer Series World Champions in P6. Lucas Bonelli for Mercedes-Benz lines up in P7. And alongside him is the second of the Chileans, Nicolas Rubilar, once again for Team BMW. Team Toyota finished second in 2020. They line up down in 9th place with Adriano Carrazza behind the wheel. Tatsuhiro Kato in the Ford GT lines up in P10. Donovan Parker completes the final row of the grid, or heads the final row of the grid, and completing that is Alex Lee for Citroën, who, of course, as we know, had a very difficult day at the office when it came down to qualifying. So Ryota Kokubun leads the field away then as we get ready to get the Manufacturer Series underway. Jimmy, first look at the tyres. Kokubun and Gallo starting on the softs, but Inestrosa going for the mediums. What's that all about?
Interesting, really. Would have thought he'd sort of do the same as the rest, people around him, and try and stick with the front pack. But obviously, I think he's thinking the long game, trying to be quick at the end, still being quick at the start. Maybe with lower fuel, making better use of the softer tyre. That's all I can think of right now. But it does mean that he's going to be under pressure from behind from Troncoso and Neto, who are both on that soft compound tyre.
Well, there's been a lot of tension in the air as we get our new format underway this year. The World Series in 2021 at Suzuka will kick off the Manufacturer Series for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Ryota Kokubun leads the field around the final corner here in Japan. And on home soil, he will lead the field down towards that first turn as well as we get the race underway. So Kokubun leads from Gallo, from Inestrosa. Drivers weaving there in the background to try and get heat into their tyres. Crucial, of course, to have as much grip as possible before they hit the anchors into the first turn. Kokubun and Gallo also following suit, but it is the Japanese driver for the Japanese manufacturer of Mazda that leads the way into that first turn, followed by Gallo, followed by Inestrosa. But look already at the soft tyre shot at Manuel Troncoso. He's right up the rear wing of Inestrosa into the S-bends.
A bit of contact there actually between the two cars as Troncoso actually pushes Inestrosa through here, saying, well, get on with it, mate, come on, I don't want to lose touch of these front two. And of course, you're seeing the real difference there in the grip as Troncoso goes up the inside now of the Dunlop curve, slots by up, he goes, thank you very much, says Neto, tries to follow him through. They're going to be going 2 by 2, coming up to the decks at this rate. It seems that on the inside there, Inestrosa just trying to hold the line. Nato gets shuffled out wide. Miyazono takes advantage of that, goes up the inside of him. So does Bonelli, and Rubilar there as well. Nato going backwards at a rate of knots.
This is unbelievable, isn't it, for Vincenzo Neto? He's on the soft tyre. He should be fighting right at the sharp end, and now he's on the back foot with the Chilean Nicolas Rubilar for BMW really close behind. Here we cross back to the battle for the race lead between Kokubun and Valerio Gallo, though, coming out of the hairpin through the right-hander and then into that spoon curve. Again, an overtaking opportunity could present itself here for Gallo through into the left-hander. Kokubun, though, is wide to that, but it's a strong run out of this corner and onto the back straight. That's really what you want. So here is Gallo then in the slipstream. And is he going to try and take advantage of Kokubun and go for the race lead this early, or is he just going to try and sit behind the Japanese driver for the time being?
Have a look, goes up the inside there, does Gallo at the inside of 130 yard. Good place to take it, and Kokubun slips off, lets him through, doesn't want to go side by side this early on. You see how unsettled these cars are through there. There's no way as a flat corner for these guys. It really is a very difficult situation. And now Nato dips up the inside of Lucas Bonelli. They're going to run side by side now as Bonelli takes to the AstroTurf on the inside to try and extend the corner. But Nato's got the shortest line back up to 6th place. But you can see now what that move at the start of the race has cost Nato. He's just having to get back for his medium runners, and that gap already to the front is extending rapidly. He's
a sitting duck on the straight there, because here comes Nicolas Rubilar on the inside of Vincenzo Neto. They have the advantage of the slipstream, which of course the Brazilian for Audi did not have. I'd love to just stick it on camera and watch Neto for the rest of this race, because his recovery drive on that soft tyre, especially in the opening few laps, is going to be very special indeed. And he's got to be careful here, because if he gets stuck behind the likes of Miyazono and Inestrosa for too long, that gap to the top 3 is just growing lap after lap at the moment.
Keep an eye on that. You go from Rubilar, you can see pretty much pushing Bonelli through there. Rubilar, not usually down into the 8th position there. He's usually seen more in the top lot, but of course, this medium compound tyre is going to be a slow start. Meanwhile, triple world champ, Takuma Miyazono Bet you like saying that. I like saying it. Sounds good, doesn't it? Inestrosa in front of him right now. And definitely two heavyweights right now on track, both on the medium compound tyre, both sort of leading the medium runners as it is. Nato, again, just stuck there in that soft. This is a disastrous start for him, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, you're completely right. It's not ideal at all, and he's really going to have to try and pull something out of the bag here. And we know the likes of Suzuka, Miyazono, and Inestrosa, both very talented drivers. That's why they're fighting inside the top 5. That's why they're competing in the World Series itself. And they're not going to make it an easy job for Vincent Nato to get past. A good run through Spoon could be an opportunity to challenge against Suzuka, Miyazono, but of course the Japanese driver in the middle of this sandwich at the moment does have the advantage of the slipstream in front of Inestrosa. But Nato, though, is very close behind the come down the back straight in towards 130. He lifts off, thinks better of it. They're all running nose to tail through the left-hander, and that's sensible there for him, but he's going to try and send it on the brakes. A Dandare move. Miyazono doesn't hold up much of a charge, and now it is Nato in the Audi up into P5.
Miyazono had his hands on there, sorry. So he was flashing to say, Nato, mate, get up the inside. I know you're quicker than me. I'm not going to fight you. Let's not mess up each other's race here and just be as quick and efficient as possible. And actually, they're down the straight. There's a little bit of a bump draft down there. He does not want to pass. He knows Nato's going to be quicker. Lets the brakes a little bit earlier to not run into the back of the car in front. And very sensible driving there from our triple world champ.
That is why he is a triple world champ, driving exactly like that. Meanwhile, back in the front, here is Valerio Gallo then, the Italian driver. Runner-up in the Nations Cup last year. Honda finished 4th in the the Manufacturer Series in 2020 as well. He'll be hoping to try and catapult him to the top of the order. Mazda, again, they are now a partner of the FIA GT Championship, and they will certainly be hoping for a stronger finish to their 2021 season. This, of course, is the rotary-powered Vision Gran Turismo machine that we saw making its debut halfway through last year. And here we can see Inestrosa right up the gearbox now. With Nato right up the gearbox of the Porsche driver into the hairpin we go. Is it going to be a send on the brakes? It certainly is. Much more grip with the soft tyre. Side by side they run. Nato on the inside, Inestrosa on the outside. The two German manufacturers going head to head with one another. And on this occasion, it's Nato gets in front, and now he has got a 3.7 second gap to Tron Koto in third place as well.
Isn't that funny that he's now 5 seconds off the lead because of that one, he took the wrong line at one corner and it got shuffled. That's just how competitive it is here at the top level in GT Sport. You really have to be on it on every lap and every corner, otherwise you just end up going backwards. And right now, the fight for the lead is still between Ryota Kokubun and Gallo behind, in front, sorry, in that NSX. And Kokubun a little bit wide there on the curve, picks up a 0.5 second penalty. That's going to be, he's going to be saying, I imagine, some sort of colourful Japanese swear words through there, because that's going to cost him.
It's a good thing we don't understand Japanese on that basis, isn't it, really? Let's have a look and see what happens. So let's go in towards 130R. He's going to clip the grass on the outside here, over the white line. Whoa, he was lucky the car didn't rotate round on him through there, because you're right on the ragged edge of adhesion through that corner. Kokubun there picking up a half-second penalty as a result of that. Meanwhile, Gallo's got it all out of shape in the first corner. Look at how much that gap has come down. Of course, Kokubun has that half-second penalty to serve, which he will serve in the next penalty zone. So that's going to drop him back, but if he can get himself ahead of Gallo, then he might be in with a shout here of trying to hold on to this race lead.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gallo will know, of course, that Kokubun has a penalty too, so he wouldn't be feeling too pressurised there. But he must have ran wide at the bottom there, because that gap just shrunk, didn't it? Troncoso behind as well. Keep an eye on him in the Lamborghini. We know that Lambo's quick around here, and you can't really miss it in that familiar bright Lamborghini green. He'll be looking to try and get into the back of this pack, because there is a draft round here, of course. Right now he's just about outside. We've seen the draft usually about 1.2, 1.1 seconds, depending, of course, on how it's set. That's the rough area where you start getting a bit of a tow from the car in front. So if he can get within that, we will find him to pull up to the back of these guys, and we're going to free
Meanwhile, here is now Miyazono with Inestrosa right in front of him. Inestrosa going backwards on the medium compound of tyre as it stands at the moment. Clearly, Miyazono has got more pace underneath him, a little bit more confidence and a bit more speed. Now, coming into that penalty zone, here is Ryota Kokubun then behind the wheel of the Mazda. Half second it is, and that's going to drop him right into the slipstream range of Manuel Troncoso after he served the penalty. His car grays out then, and here is Troncoso right up, and of course he's got the advantage of the overspeed here then as well. Won't quite have the room to make a move into 130R, or will he? Here we go then, nearly side by side, nearly very close indeed. Will he set something up in towards the chicane? Troncoso, Kokubun knows that, goes defensive, doesn't allow the American to have an opportunity into that chicane. Sensible driving there from both of them, but if he gets a good exit out of here in that Lamborghini, this could be a very nice opportunity here for the Troncoso to find his way through.
That was a clever bit of defending there when he knew that he was going to be slow. To just sort of park the car in the middle of the track and say, well, if you want it, you've got to try and find a way by. And that was it. Same down here as we go towards T1 there. Usually, you know, the Lambo V10 is the engine everyone's talking about, but all I can hear is rotaries. We get a little bit sideways there. Troncoso taking a little bit too much speed to the corners. Mid-engine cars, they're on a little bit of a knife edge going through some of these corners. They're a little bit slippy at the rear because all the weight is back there. As soon as you start rotating it, it doesn't stop. So you've got to be really careful.
Keen to see what's going to happen then with this battle for 5th place. Meanwhile, between Inestrosa and Takuma Miyazono. On lap 5 out of 15 we are, so just over 9.5 laps remaining here of World 1 of the World Series. Here then is Kogan, who's just managed to put a tiny bit of daylight between himself and Troncoso. Meanwhile, at the front, Valerio Gallo breathing a sigh of relief. He's now got a 1.3 second buffer between himself and Kogan, so that's good for him because he's now out of that slipstream range we were talking about just a lap or so ago. Meanwhile, here is Miyazono, right up the rear wing of Inestrosa, in towards the hairpin they go. He's not going to be close enough to make a move, but he might be thinking about something perhaps a little bit later on in the lap if he can get a good run out of here and into the smooth curve. But an exit like that out of the hairpin is going to help him.
That Subaru doesn't really grunt, does it? It's just hanging on in the corners, but you can see even in the toe, it's not really gaining any ground. Only until we get right at the end of this sort of long curve to the right here coming into Spoon do we actually get any kind of momentum from that Subaru. Still going strong though as we come now round onto the back straight again, nice and close through the mid corner, but then just falls away on that initial acceleration. Doesn't quite have that same grunt as the flat 6 in front of it. As we return to Gallo at the front of the field. Oh, he's on the curve. Oh, he's round. So, 360, 720 nearly, and almost collects Troncoso as well. And, oh, you can see the frustration there in his face. And he tries to get, Nato as well as he comes in. So, oh my word, what happened there?
Goodness me, Gallo looks like he just got a little bit too wide. He's going to right this lap off, and understandably so, going to come in for the medium common of tyres a couple of laps too soon, just cut his losses, and I'm not surprised there at all. Miyazono also opting to come into the pit lane, likewise Donovan Parker in the Volkswagen, but now Kokeman leads the way, and he's got Troncoso very close behind, so that has changed the complexion of this race at the start of lap number 6, so it's now advantage Kokeman and Troncoso. This is going to be very exciting indeed between these drivers. And of course, there's a difference in strategy to come into play here as well. The likes of Miyazono and Parker now going on to the softer compound of tyres, so they're going to be quicker in the mid to closing stages of this race compared to the likes of the other drivers who have started on the soft tyre and will now be on the mediums. But Valerio Gallo comes out ahead of Takuma Miyazono, now down in 10th place. Goodness me, how the tables turn.
How the turntables.
I was going for that one, yeah.
We have a driver cam on Gallo too. He looks flustered. I'm not surprised really, but the race continues regardless of what happens to Valerio Gallo, and Kokeman and Troncoso now are basically our two that are in it to win it, as we are with Troncoso as we come around this long right-hander. Of course, interestingly, I would have thought Inestrosa would have pitted by now, given that he's the lead medium runner. We've seen some people come into the pits as Miyazono just chucks one up the inside of Valerio Gallo. That's the tyre advantage there, Tom. Easier to get by on the brakes, a lot more grip on the braking and on traction and acceleration, so that was really just a matter of time.
Nicely done there for Skipper Miyazono. A bit of clear track in front of him now as well, which will be a welcome sight, I am sure. Meanwhile, down back straight we go in towards 130R. The disadvantage there actually for Skipper Miyazono, just while we think about it, is of course that Subaru does not have that straight line speed, and now he doesn't have the advantage of the slipstream. It was their Achilles heel throughout 2020. Seems to be exactly the same for them in 2021 as well. So through into the final series of corners we go, on to start another lap. Now the crucial question is, when are these drivers going to pit? Is Troncoso perhaps going to try and dart in maybe on the next lap, and maybe Kokeman will carry on and try and get a bit of an undercut?
Look at the straight line speed difference. Does he go for the pass? No, he doesn't. I thought he might have a go there. He had a bit of an overshot, but I think what will happen is they're going to just try and run this tyre as long as possible, as they always do. So here we are, more people pitting, and this time Dan Gallinas throws it in the Porsche. He was our lead medium runner. He's one to watch. We're going to see now the alternative strategy. Of course, where he comes out compared to Gallo will be very interesting, because Gallo did have that spin. Let's see if Miyazono goes up ahead. So, okay, Miyazono there pulled a bit of a blinder. He's ahead of Inestrosa and Valerio Gallo. So Miyazono there definitely getting that pit strategy correct. But now it's going to be a matter of whether that soft tyre is going to hang on for what is half the race. We know he likes to go on the soft tyre fairly early. usually manage it, but Suzuka is a bit of a tyre killer, especially this first sector.
Exactly that, yeah. Inestrosa's got the advantage. He's got a couple of laps fresher tyres. He's got Gallo in front of him, who's on a medium compound, and as you said, Jimmy, Miyazono, of course, on a couple of laps older, so his tyres towards the end of the race are going to be very second-hand indeed. That tyre multiplier, of course, at times 4 here as well, so 1 lap is the equivalent of 4 at Suzuka, just to remind you, and that's, well, 4 laps extra around the S-bend is not going to do your front tyres much good.
No, definitely. Those front tyres will be screaming towards the end of the race, especially in something front-engine rear-wheel drive, as that Subaru is. So, with Inestrosa on board in the Porsche, getting a good view of the back of the NSX here, and you can see now what the draft does here as we get to just a little bit closer to the rear wing of Valerio Gallo in front. Now, will we dart to the inside, make the move? No, we don't. We wait. See, he actually then thought about making a move at the end there. I think we'll probably see now is Inestrosa will just sort of get a nice exit out of his left hand. They come into the back straight, just give it a run through. I don't think Gallo's going to fight it too much. He's on a tyre disadvantage here. He knows he's going a bit backwards. So let's see what happens. Inestrosa gets into the back, has to go to the outside as Gallo actually defends the inside. But he's just going to drive by in that Porsche. Has the run. Past he goes up into 8th.
Hazard's on as well, so thanks very much as he comes into 130R. Peace of mind there for Inestrosa. Gallo tries to fight back, has a little bit of a sneaky look in towards the chicane, but isn't quite able to make it stick as Carrazza and Rubelar come into the pit lane from their medium tyres onto the soft for the second half then of this race. Meanwhile, the leaders, Kokeman, Troncoso, Nato, now continue on. Lee there in 4th place is out of position really because he's still on the medium tyres. He's opted to go a little bit longer and have fresher soft tyres on lower fuel towards the end of this one. He's got to try something different. He was right at the back of the field.
Carrazza just shaking his head in the pit lane there, so he's not happy about his race to go. Not surprised, look at him, dead last. So obviously not going the way of the Brazilian. We know he's faster than this as well, so obviously something's gone wrong for him somewhere. But big frustration there for Adriano Carrazza. Miyazono though, looking quick right now, he's the lead car of the cars that have pitted. You can see that big P column there on the right hand side. If there's a 1 in it, then yeah, maybe a better choice of words there. If there's a 1 in it, they've pitted. If not, they haven't. So right now, the people who have not to pit, Kokeman, Troncoso, Nato and Lee, who I think really is out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very much out of position there. Is Alex Lee. So let's see what is going to happen then between our top 2, Kokeman and Troncoso there. That gap has now increased to up to 0.8 of a second between these drivers. Vincenzo Nato there in 3rd place, 5.3 seconds back. So these two have just been able to run their own race. Nato, of course, was caught up in the drama with Valerio Gallo. There was contact, of course, between those two going into that final chicane, which would certainly have cost the Brazilian driver time. Down back straight in towards 130R. Now, if you're Kokeman, what's going through your mind at this stage? You've got the lead. It's only a smaller gap that you've got, though. Are you going to have to try anything bold to hold on to that lead, or do you just need to carry on doing what you're doing?
You're probably thinking, don't do a Gallo. Don't get too wide in that corner exit there and pick up on the Astro and spin, because when you're leading, it's all really just about hitting your marks. And interestingly, Troncoso's coming to the pits earlier than Kokeman, so that Undercut does kind of work in this. That soft compound tyre at this stage, I think probably fair to say, going to be a bit slower than the new medium.
Let's see what happens then. Nato also into the pit lane there as well. Fuel not going to be too much of a concern for these drivers. Troncoso comes up the pit lane. Where's he going to come out though? Right in clear air. That's perfect for Troncoso. Exactly what he needed, but he did cross the white line there. I wonder whether the stewards are going to be having a little look at that, because they do, in our World Tour events, have done previously, have said that you can't cross the white line, you must run as you would do in a real world event, and I wonder whether they'll be having a little look at that.
He didn't just cross the white line, he just sent it across it, didn't he? So, yeah, we'll see. Miyazono though, now, whilst Troncoso is in front, of course, on track, Miyazono at this point will have the tyre advantage over the Lamborghini in front of him. So we'll just see if anything can be made of that. Here's Lucas Bonelli. He's with Vinny Nato in front. Of course, poor Vinny, still suffering from that first lap shuffle. So much so that he's still behind Valerio Gallo, who literally was doing skateboard tricks out of 130R. So it's not going well for the Brazilian.
I can see his driver cam at the moment from where our commentary position is. He is not looking like a happy bunny at all. Now he's about to get done over by Lucas Bonelli. His fellow countrymen, side by side, they go in towards the hairpin. The Mercedes on the inside, the Audi on the outside, and now it's from bad to worse there for Vincenzo Nato as Lucas Bonelli promotes himself up to P6.
So one of the things really is I wouldn't want to have a driver cam with me, he says as a streamer, because people can see your reactions. Usually he's sitting there, he looks a bit defeated, doesn't he?
That's you every stream, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, figuratively and literally, yeah, usually. So, Now, I'm interested to see if Kokeman's at the end of his lap. He's got to be, surely. So he's coming through the last chicane at the moment. Let's keep an eye on the track map, see what he does. It looks like he's bearing to the right slightly, so I think he has to respond now. Yeah, in he comes.
I was just having a look at sector times as well, and certainly Troncoso was the quicker of the two drivers because his tyres were a little bit fresher. So let's see what it means when he returns out the pit lane. Through the final chicane we go, into the pits meanwhile for Ryota Kokeman, onto the medium combat of tyre, but the crucial question is, where is he going to merge in relation to Manuel Troncoso? Out of the pit lane he comes. Where is the Lamborghini driver? He's going to be very close, but I don't think quite close enough, but he's going to have the overspeed into the first corner. It's going to be tight between the two, but Kokeman, by a whisker, retains the race lead.
Oh, and Troncoso would have heard that rotary start up in the pit lane and thought, oh bother, there he goes. So, and just like that, the Lamborghini driver is back where he started, back behind the Mazda Vision. Yeah, you can see, as Tom points out, that trying to get some heat into those tyres in a race situation, you have to really scrub them through there, because a cold tyre just doesn't have the same grip as a warm one. So having to warm them up whilst defending is always a little bit of a challenge. Here's Angel Inestrosa and Takuma Miyazono. Both these guys on the soft compounded tyre, and they are charging. They're only now a second off the top two, and they will be quicker for the next couple of laps until those tyres fall off a little bit. So we've gone from a two-way scrap to the lead for a four-way scrap. It's going to be an amazing last few laps.
There's 5 laps to remain, and it is going to be very exciting, as you say. So 4 drivers scrapping for the lead, 2 on fresher medium combat of tyres, certainly, but they're going to be slower. Look at how close the closing speed was between Inestrosa and Miyazono there. So Miyazono, despite a really average qualifying for his standards down in P6 or whatever it was, he is now in the pound seat for the race victory if it stays as it is. Let's see what he's going to be able to do. There's a bit of daylight between themselves and Troncoso and Kokeman in front, so it's kind of 2 by 2 as it stands at the moment. However, there is time for them to get themselves onto the back of these 2 drivers, and what Miyazono and Inestrosa need to do here is not squabble too much amongst one another, try and kind of work together to close that gap down. But Inestrosa is going to try for the podium position. Side by side they go into 130R. The Porsche is now ahead. Inestrosa, the Chilean, is into 3rd place. Is Miyazono going to retaliate into the chicane? Has a bit of a little look, but doesn't quite think about making the move.
Yeah, basically now it's just, right, when do we go for it? Because you say about working together, but at some point that goes out the window, and I'm wondering when that point is going to be. So there are our first 4 cars all in frame. The second group slightly behind the first group. In our mirrors there, look at the bottom right corner of the screen, full of Subaru. And same for Ryota Kokeman in front. That Lamborghini is a little bit closer than it was before, and I think that's got it's got a bit better cornering speed, that Lambo. So that mid-corner, that mid-engine layout there, just that better rotation at the midpoint of the corner, I think, than the car in front. But it just seems that on traction zones, that's where the Mazda's putting away a little bit. Here is Inestrosa coming through the S's, again having just to wrestle the car through there, but you can see just as the gap visually coming down as they go through the corner, those soft tyres.
It's interesting you talk about engine and car layouts as well, because we've got 2 front-engine rear-drive cars and 2 mid-engine rear-drive cars in here. It's interesting the point you make about the cars being easier to rotate, because that's certainly the case, but they're prone to a bit more snap oversteer, as we've seen with Troncoso. He's been yeah, exactly. They've both been sideways quite a lot over the course of this race, so keen to see what that will mean once the tyres go out of their maximum operating window. So now, look, that gap is closer than it's ever been before. 4 drivers running nose to tail, 3.5 laps remaining here at Suzuka, and anybody's guess as to who's going to take the win in round 1 of the World Series here.
Yeah, all aboard the rotary train here at Suzuka. Your conductor, Ryota Kokeman at the top, leading Troncoso, leading Inestrosa, leading Miyazono. 1, 2, 3, 4, all in your frame, coming now down the back straight. Inestrosa in the draft for Lamborghini in front now. Inestrosa on that soft compounded tyres. Now better cornering, better braking, better traction. Where's he going to use that? Let's see, coming through this left-hander. Is it flat for Inestrosa? No, it's a big lift through there and a downshift, but look at the difference in cornering speed. He's gaining on the cars in front, not quite close enough. Looks like he has to go for a late lunge there. He was almost caught out by the Lamborghini being so slow into there. That's going to actually open it up now to attack from Miyazono behind, but we know that poor little Subaru down the straight's going to be hanging on for dear life, so probably not under threat into T1.
Well, here we go then, down that start-finish straight. Miyazono, as you said, that gap is increasing between them. All of these drivers have got the advantage of the slipstream aside from Kokeman in front. Here comes Troncoso having a look into the first turn, not quite able to make a move stick, and now he's going to have to watch his mirrors. Yes, Ben, that's given a tiny bit of daylight for Ryota Kokeman, just have a little bit of breathing space, but look at how much more corner speed Troncoso and Inestrosa have got, who are challenging very close behind, and this of course is where we saw Inestrosa losing that position on the opening lap coming through the final series of corners, and now he could be ready to take revenge as they come through in towards the Degners. It's only a matter of time surely before Inestrosa thinks about making a move, not quite into the Degners. I don't think an opportunity is going to present itself into there, but certainly into the hairpin for the Chilean driver could be the place for him to get himself up into second position. Here we are riding on board. Takuma Miyazono's got a grandstand seat. Troncoso knows he's going to try and attack Inestrosa, goes defensive into the hairpin, puts him on the back foot. Here comes Miyazono with a send down the inside. That's a late move there from the Japanese driver. He runs side by side with Inestrosa in towards the right-hander and doesn't quite able to make the move stick, and now it sits as it was as they come in towards the spoon curve.
He gave it back, Tom. I think he knew the contact was a little bit cheeky. Short shifted that and Inestrosa back through, so nice sportsmanlike behaviour there from our triple world champion. Riding on board, still there with that Subaru. And Troncoso, he set that all up himself for the S's. He was too fast for the S's, and that basically disturbed his rhythm all the way down to the hairpin. It just shows you how quick and competitive this is here in this series. One mistake and you just open yourself up to attack. We're still riding with Takuma Miyazono there as the front two are about as close as they have been so far. Will the Lamborghini go for a move? Kokeman has to go defensive, and he's going to try and go around the long way around. He does. Troncoso all the way around the outside there of Kokeman, who's forced wide, and Inestrosa wants him through, and Miyazono. So Kokeman loses 3 places in one corner there, and will Inestrosa go for the inside? He does. He goes at the inside, coming down a T1. Troncoso there, and he lets him by. That's interesting. So I think he can't compete with him right now, and Inestrosa, that's worked out well for him, hasn't it?
Yeah, that Porsche has always been quick at a straight line, and Kokeman is really wide for that first series of corners, but he's able to hold the outside line and get ahead of Takuma Miyazono. That straight line speed disadvantage is really hampering Subaru here, because it's just not enough for them to be able to hang on. The hazards flashing there for Ryota Kokeman as they go through into the S-Bends there. Riding on board, we are here with Takuma Miyazono, so he now knows that he's got to make up his time through these corners. He's got to have more grip if he's going to try and challenge for the podium, and he's now out of position whilst Inestrosa is of course on the soft combat of tyre, and he's going to have the time and the place to be able to pull away from the two mediums of Troncoso and Kokeman here.
I love the mental capacity of these guys. Flashing out is basically a bit like saying, oh thanks, or like, hey, let's do something, let's work together. Whilst they're just, absolutely sending these cars round at world record pace. It's amazing how good these guys are in the game. You expect it, but it's always a bit of a sight to behold. And look again, this must be so frustrating for Miyazono. He has the pace to be in the lead part of the car, the pack, but the car, whilst it's amazing in the corners, he just can't quite use it. He's stuck behind somebody else. Here we are, Kokeman in front in that rotary. He's just going to pull away from down the straight, and he's handing this race to Angel Inestrosa.
Well, down the back straight we go, in towards 130R once more for the 13th time out of 15, and there we are. There is the straight line speed disadvantage. Miyazono is absolutely Harry Flatters at the moment and has not got the opportunity to find his way through. Bit of a wiggle there going through 130R for the race leader of Inestrosa and also for Kokeman there, but look at how good Miyazono is on the brakes. Despite the straight line speed disadvantage, he's just able to make it up, and well, that could be a very promising prospect for him coming into the closing stages here. Maybe that's where he'll make up his time on the brakes into the hairpin, for example.
Possibly, we'll see. Penultimate lap now, as this is the time where you kind of have to show your hand. Well, what can you do? Miyazono rapidly running out of time. You come through the S's now, and as you said before, Tom, it's very much one a time through here, unless you've got a big tyre advantage, which they won't now. Those soft and mediums will be feeling quite similar at this point. The soft is definitely worn down. And we're just seeing how much Miyazono is having to drive to the car in front, having to wait. Come through his right hand, and now set yourself up very nicely for this Dunlop curve. Chuck the car to the inside, let it sit, and then heavy on the throttle. Very, very easy to run wide there, catch a bit of grass, and pick yourself out on the wall. But of course, none of these guys will do that. They're far better than we are at home. Here is Troncoso. Still has a chance here. He is a little bit slow on that medium compound tyre, but definitely not out, and not that much slower.
Look at that wiggle there from Takuma Miyazono coming through the second Degner. He's really on the ragged edge as they come in towards that hairpin, and no moves being made between these drivers, so there's going to be one opportunity for them to find their way through on on the next lap then, and let's see whether that is going to be the opportunity for them to be able to do so. So Troncoso sitting there in second position on the medium compound of tyre, not being challenged by Ryota Kokubun, not able to challenge Angel Estrada. Kind of a bit sort of in no man's land here, really. Just needs to hold on, drive his race, and second would be a very welcome result for him.
I think so. I mean, obviously, as a driver, you never really want to settle for second place or anything like that. You want to just try and always think of the lead. I mean, why turn up for the race otherwise, But at some point, you do have to be realistic and go, well, unless something happens here, there's not much I can really do. But that won't mean he won't stop trying. You see here, comes through 130. He has the run. Maybe he's just waiting for maybe a London to the last lap. He knows he can't quite overtake here, so he's going to sit up behind the Porsche, try and be as close as he can on traction there coming through this last one. But you can see just how much more grit, more confidence in Estrada has in that Porsche as he now come on to the last lap. And Miyazono, he must now be thinking, right, I've got to go for a move at some point here. He's in that draft coming down the straight, but there's nothing he can do. He's just not getting any closer. This must be so frustrating, particularly Miyazono, but at the same time, it's great car placing by Ryota Kokubun to put him in that position. Troncoso a little bit wide ahead of him there, but not enough to allow Kokubun to get any closer. So really now, it's all or nothing. Last lap, do or die.
Through the right-hander they go, and then into the left. Very close indeed. Takuma Miyazono needs to make up that time on the brakes. Look at Kokubun, though. He's got a good run on Troncoso, who's been a bit out of sorts in these first few corners, and that's put him on the back foot. Look at that slide he had going through there as well. He's just looking a bit on edge here.
He is really getting the most he can out of those medium Michelin tyres. That definitely worn down. That's still working well, but he's having to really hustle it, and it's great to watch. Here is Ryota Kokubun now. He has definitely closed up, hasn't he, Tom? Right on the rear wing now of Troncoso. Will he go for a move into the heaven? One of the last chances to have a slip. Will he have a go? No, he doesn't. Decides to wait for now. He might try and move into spoon using the draft.
Sensible there from Manuel Troncoso and also Ryota Kokubun, just to keep things on the straight and narrow to not lose too much time and possibly allow the opportunity that Takuma Miyazono has been looking for. So through the long right-hander, then they're going to flick it left into spoon, and it's going to be down the back straight and into 130R before the chicane, where surely we're going to see the opportunities presenting themselves. Angel Estrada, meanwhile, has been able to pull out an 0.8 of a second advantage on this final lap. That is the biggest that gap has been throughout the entirety of these last couple of laps, and he surely has got this one sewn up. So it's all about the battle then for second position. Down the back straight we go, in towards 130R. Estrada will lead the field through, followed by Troncoso, followed by Ryota Kokubun. Then in towards the chicane we go. Troncoso onto the curve, onto the outside, and spins it round. That's a disaster for Manuel Troncoso. He spins it out of second place, goes tumbling down the order, handed on a plate to Ryota Kokubun then. So it's Angel Estrada who wins round one of the 2021 Manufacturers World Series, ahead of Kokubun, ahead of Miyazono. Two Japanese drivers on the podium, and Manuel Troncoso then will come over the line down in P6. What a disaster for the American.